Sometimes a movie is a video game, or sometimes a video game can be a movie, but sometimes it can be both. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore. I hope you are enjoying your October. It's my favorite time of the year. I love all the horror films that come out around now. And I want to talk about a horror film. I guess you would put it in the horror category, but maybe more of a thriller. Is it a video game? Is it a movie? Can it be all of those things? I actually think it can. The Complex Lockdown is actually a version of the movie based on a video game that came out that was a full motion video choice-based game that came out earlier this year, oddly, like right in March, right around when, well, I guess the real lockdown happened. And I'm excited today to have the director of the Complex Lockdown on the Film Threat Podcast, Paul Raschid. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All the way from London. So I know I think it's later for you.
Yeah, it's 7:30. I was just winding down, just finishing up another interactive film. Finishing up post on it. Yeah, we shot one during lockdown, which was crazy.
That's cool. I'm a fan of this genre.
Great.
This sort of like movie that's a game, and a fan from way back. I don't even know if you remember a company called Digital Pictures.
I've heard of them because I know during the 90s there was kind of the heyday of like FMV game interactive films kind of things, and then they kind of died out for a little bit, and then obviously Bandersnatch from Netflix's Bandersnatch and Late Shift from Wales Interactive, who did the Complex with me. There's been a little resurgence or renaissance within the genre. So,
well, I've always liked it. So this company, Digital Pictures, did one called Night Trap, which started like an 80s slasher movie. Then they did another one called Sewer Shark that was a lot of fun. They even did a full motion video Quarterback Attack. Just a whole bunch of different, they were playing with the genre. The technology wasn't there, but the technology is here now. Yeah, so what led, and the Complex, the story of it, I can't believe when I played it back in March, it was so, you didn't plan on it, but it was ahead of its time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost not prophetic, but it was just a very coincidental timing of it. Obviously, Lynn Renee Maxey, who wrote the script, like she'd been working on it for years in advance, and it's a coincidence that it completely happened. But then obviously you read all the like comments online, and everyone's like, "Oh, the coronavirus film," all this kind of stuff. So I honestly promise that it was nothing. There was nothing to do with that. We made this lot like April 2019. Yeah, so that was.
Well, what led to I'm really curious what led to the development of it. I think that we're going to see, especially with the PS5 and new Xbox incarnations, several new Xbox systems coming out. I feel like now this genre can thrive. When Digital Pictures was around in the late 90s, it just wasn't there. Now it's fully there. And having played the Complex, having seen the movie, which you're kind of forced into choices, and played the game, they're different experiences altogether. What led to that, and what sort of challenges? Because it's almost like, it's kind of like you're making three movies. In a way, right? Like that's got to be challenging. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, to be honest, it was something that was the brainchild of producer John Giwa-Amu, who saw my last film, White Chamber, that sort of released on Netflix last August, I think. But he saw it on its festival run in 2018 and liked my work, and he sort of came to me and said, "Oh, Paul, I've got something that I'd really like you to pitch for. I've got this interactive sci-fi thriller." And I was like, yeah, I'm a casual gamer myself, so it's a form that I've always enjoyed, and something I want to explore more, like storytelling through game. So I pitched it for John and producer Jade Alexander as well, and they liked they liked my vision, and I got on board. But then it was like that was the easy part almost, because then once I got on board, it was like, oh my god, how am I going to shoot on a pretty low budget shoots three quite ambitious sci-fi films. Three, it's not really three, but it's like, I would say the script was about 180 reel pages altogether. So, it was a lot of content to get into what was, an ordinary film shoot. And you're pushed for time on an ordinary film shoot as it is anyway, let alone having to wrap your head around the different permutations of the story, how it can unravel, how it can in different directions, and then obviously, you need the actors and the crew to, all be in sync and aligned with that. And we were very blessed with a really talented crew and a really talented cast who were able to emotionally, explore the different avenues of their characters, which I think they actually found quite, liberating, because it's like you have to make choices usually, and during the rehearsal period you hone in on the choices that you make of your characters. And I think Michelle, Al, Kate, Kim, Rachel, all the actors who were involved, really enjoyed the liberation of getting able to explore different emotions and actually take them on set and lay them down on film. So there were lots of challenges, but I think everyone was really rose to it and was really intrigued by it, and used it as an opportunity to really creatively express themselves. So, it was so tight for, time wise and everything. We were shooting, like, I think one day we shot 15 pages of script. But, when you've got the right people who are motivated to do it, everyone kind of brought their A game and rose to the occasion. So, yeah.
Well, I also really love that there are some simple choices, do I look or not look during one particular scene.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but because I believe it's still available on PS4. Or
yeah. All gaming platforms, yeah.
Yeah, all gaming platforms as a game, but now this is the version for those that just want to enjoy the movie, which is definitely going to seem very forward-thinking, considering what we're dealing with now. Especially the title, The Complex Lockdown.
Yeah.
So kudos to who added that little.
Absolutely, yeah.
It totally works. But I also then there are a lot of the choices that are about many of the choices, moral choices. I feel like those are the most interesting. Do I choose this person or that person, and then what are the consequences of that? Was that fun to explore, and like how did that branch off? Because I've heard of game scripts for a lot of these things being like so many pages, like a telephone book when they made telephone books. But like just like that must present just so much, especially, you mentioned the script was 180 pages. It's like I said, making 3 movies. So the moral choices have to be, I think, the most interesting ones that cause some confusion with the actors, where they're like, okay, where am I with this? Or what were some of those challenges for the actors?
I think, as I said, we were really blessed with an amazing cast, and I think they all really enjoyed that. And I think the way they played it is they picked on that, the ambiguity, the moral ambiguity of a lot of the choices that were posed to them. And I think they wanted to play it as neutral as possible in certain ways, but as not to influence the audience, because basically they are, Michelle, more than Amy Tennant's character, is the audience's perspective as well. So I know, especially for Michelle, she couldn't weigh her emotion too much on one choice or the other. She had to present it as she had to walk that fine line between presenting a fully formed character in their own right, with their own backstory and their own history, but also a cipher for someone that the audience could build and go on a journey with and instill some of their personality into. So she did an amazing job, walking that tightrope. I felt like it was amazing to see. Whereas the other actors were, because they weren't, the audience was not playing, that wasn't the player. They were able to, make it more traditionally fully formed linear characters who, did have very strong emotional responses to certain situations and certain people. But that having them around you as these very, very fleshed out characters who thought for themselves and had their own views on viewpoints and were trying to influence Amy and you and the audience. That they really set into that really nicely, and that was what they were playing. It's like, what do we want to tempt the player into doing? What choice did they want the player to make, not just Amy? So I think that was kind of the relationship between Amy as a character and the characters around, and the players all around her. And I think the actors really responded to that really, really well, because they all got on really well, and there was a real energy on set between them, a creative synergy, which you always hope for. So I think that's kind of how it all worked out, and I think they really relished any moral dilemma, moral quandary that they wanted to, steer Amy one direction or steer her away from something. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of the relationship.
It does. I just think it's so fascinating because you can play the game, and I do think there is sort of this is the good choice, or the choice that a character would make in a traditional movie. And then you have kind of the bad choice. You have you can play it. So, and because you're in her head, as the protagonist, it really sort of like, I think it's more a reflection on the player than it is, obviously, the actor. It's the player choosing that path. I just think it opens up a whole different, set of tools, storytelling tools, for filmmakers going forward. Have you found yourself, based on the success of this, now people looking at you of like, hey, you can do the interactive movie thing? Does that help or hurt you?
Well, it hasn't really. I mean, to be honest, because obviously the industry is basically sort of shut down for a majority of the year. And the Complex kind of released during lockdown. I haven't yet seen the industry's response to me as a filmmaker. I mean, I want to keep making these. I think that it's a format that I really, really love and want to keep exploring. And I've like I said, I've just wrapped on one which is set to release within the next sort of month or two, which is a rom-com, an interactive rom-com. So, I want to definitely explore different genres within interactive. And, as the Complex lockdown, exemplifies, you can make linear films out of, as well as an interactive narrative. So you kind of, you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. If the narrative is designed in a way that, you can extrapolate a fully formed linear story from that. So, I'm still waiting to kind of see, what other producers and people view me as, and whether it sort of pigeonholes me. But if it does pigeonhole me, it's kind of a pigeonhole that I'd be happy to be in, really.
Well, it's exceptional work with this. I've been a fan of this genre. I mean, you mentioned Bandersnatch. I feel like I'd love to see more of these because, but this is the first time I can even remember one of these titles being released both as a game and as a standalone movie, because I do think there's a percentage of the audience that they don't want to engage, just press play and then take in the experience. But for those of us that want to wonder what it would be like if certain choices went a different way, you really have the option. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Chris. How much different was the Complex lockdown narrative from what you played?
Oh, it was different. It was different in the sense that I feel I made more of the morally acceptable choice, if that makes sense. I feel like that's sort of where I was going with it. Yeah. And I feel this Complex Lock, your version kind of surprised me, which I liked. I liked that it went a different way. So I don't know. I just would like to see more of this. I think it's a fascinating evolution in storytelling. So I wish you all the success. It's out October 13th, which is great because I have a T-shirt that says Film Threat the 13th. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Paul Raschid, I want to thank you for talking to us from London. I also want to thank our sponsor, Storyblocks. Go to storyblocks.com/filmthreat. You'll support this podcast, and it's a great set of tools for filmmakers if you want to be sitting where Paul is right now, and we can be talking about your movie. Paul, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it. It's been great fun.
I hope to talk to you again about another movie. This was
absolutely
really
for sure.
All right, take care.